And I work for the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign. 2015 was a banner year for renewable energy. Solar and wind were the biggest source of new power on the grid, making up 65% of all new electricity generation and eclipsing gas for the very first time. The truth is, 2015 was one in a series of very good years for renewable resources. Years that are helping us get on track for the low-carbon future we need now. With significant price declines and impressive job gains, this growth in solar and wind has come in large part as a result of smart policies adopted by states and regulators. To strategically ride this wave into the future, TVA must also proactively develop and execute clear policies that prioritize the clean, efficient energy over the dirty and expensive fuels of the past. For example, California's three largest utilities will soon create roadmaps to incorporate more distributed energy resources, such as rooftop solar and electric vehicles, onto the grid. In Illinois, electric and gas companies are partnering with consumer groups to dramatically increase adoption of smart home thermostats to save energy. And in oil-rich Texas, the state's largest electricity generator, with a coal-heavy fleet, recently announced plans to power more than 50,000 homes with West Texas Solar by late 2016. The Tennessee Valley cannot afford to miss this wave. While TVA's IRP did not go as far in recommending the use of renewables that some of us wanted, it did confirm that wind and solar can compete with coal and gas on a level playing field. The momentum in renewables that has been building for the past few years will continue and accelerate in 2016. That means that now is the opportune time to develop new detailed policies that incorporate more renewable generation. With such policies, it's possible for TVA to reach its goals pointed to in the IRP sooner rather than later, to potentially save hundreds of millions of dollars more in energy costs over time, and to not risk a contest against more progressive competitors that are gaining market share at your expense. If we miss the wave and continue to cling to old and dirty assets of the past, TVA will be on the losing end of the new energy economy. TVA has made some smart investments recently in clean energy. The 3 utility-scale solar projects now in the pipeline are a great example. They will decrease costs and foster more economic development. So let's build on that progress and put in place detailed policies that will put TVA on track for much, much more clean energy. 2016 could be the year that you set a policy to double or triple the total amount of solar installed across the valley. There are thousands of megawatts of wind capacity in the Oklahoma Panhandle in the works. That cheap wind can be delivered here by the end of the decade. TVA can set a policy to secure a long-term contract to capture that wind and to protect its customers from rising fossil fuel prices. And because the stream of funds from the EPA agreement, will dry up soon, TVA can develop new efficiency policies aimed at low and moderate income customers who need it most. There's no shortage of good policies on the table. With smart leaders on this board and around the management table, TVA is poised to turn the idea of clean energy into a reality for the people and businesses of the Tennessee Valley. To do that, we need sound, strategic, and specific policies in place that will help secure our energy future. Thank you.
I work at the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. I've had the pleasure of addressing the board before, and I'm always appreciative of the time TVA takes to hear from us at these meetings. The Tennessee Valley Authority has provided power low-cost energy to the valley for 80 years, originally relying on hydro dams and then moving to other energy resources. At one point, TVA provided the majority of its power using coal-fired power plants. While a seemingly cheap option at the time, coal-fired power exacted a significant toll on our environment and our health, increasing asthma, inducing air pollution, and adding more pollution to our waterways, as well as creating massive coal ash waste landfills. Thankfully, TVA has had the foresight to reduce its dependence on coal. Although some of TVA's coal retirements were part of a legal settlement that TVA entered into after being found in violation of the Clean Air Act, others were economic decisions made in response to changes in the energy market, including the continually falling prices for solar and wind energy resources. Smart economic decisions are part of TVA's recipe for keeping rates low for customers and fostering economic development in the valley. Some decisions, however, cannot be made on purely economic merits. This is a lesson TVA had to learn the hard way when choices made in order to save costs ultimately resulted in a disaster that cost TVA billions of dollars and will continue to cost TVA money for at least the next 30 years. The Kingston coal ash disaster was a turning point in understanding the importance of making smart, safe choices when dealing with coal ash. And also was the impetus for EPA's new coal ash regulations that require safer storage of coal ash waste. Now currently TVA is in the process of deciding how to permanently store coal ash landfills in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama. These sites comprise more than 538 acres of land and contain nearly 33 million cubic yards of coal ash waste, which is laden with arsenic and other heavy metals. I attended a recent public hearing last week, one in a series of open houses the TVA hosted around the coal ash sites, and I appreciate the time and manpower TVA invested to hold these events, which were not required underneath them. I had a chance to ask TVA staff questions about why it appeared to be favoring the least cost option for permanent storage of these landfills in order to take advantage of the fast-track closure option under the federal coal ash rule. This fast-track option allows utilities to avoid more protective requirements for coal ash storage that take effect if the plant is still operating in April of 2018. So I'm here to just implore you to take a hard look and consider the long-term effects of leaving TVA's coal ash waste on the banks of our rivers, where many of your customers fish, some for recreation, some for subsistence. Today, it may appear wise to take the cheap, fast way out and sweep TVA's legacy coal ash waste under the rug, capping unlined landfills in place and promising to keep an eye on things. But when these coal plants continue to close and are decommissioned, like TVA's John Sevier coal plant, will TVA leave behind a legacy of environmental stewardship or a legacy of leaky, polluting coal ash landfills? Thank you.
Board members, my name is Stephen Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. I normally speak without notes, but I actually have a couple of quotes here that I wanted to share, and so I'm going to try to get it right, because I don't want to quote famous people and misrepresent them. I have two quotes I want to share with you from two great engineers and visionaries of our time that were involved in the electric power industry, both Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Thomas Edison in 1931, talking to Henry Ford and Harvey Firestone, was describing the resource use in generating electricity, and he said, "We're like tenant farmers chopping down the fence around our house for fuel, and we should be using nature's inexhaustible sources of energy like sun, wind, and tidal." He went on and talked with his friends about this, and they were talking about different ways, and then ultimately Edison said, "I put my money on the sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope that we don't have to wait until oil and coal run out before we tackle that." The other quote that I wanted to share with you is from Nikola Tesla. And obviously, a lot of people have heard about the Tesla car, but if you really understand the history of Tesla, he was quite a visionary, quite an inventor. And it struck me when I was reading one of his books that he talks about generating electricity with fossil fuel, and he laments that we will be destroying the material. In other words, if you burn coal or you burn gas, you actually destroy the material. And this would be a barbarous process. We ought to be able to obtain the energy we need without consumption of material. And then he goes on and talks about the inefficiencies of the combustion process. My point is that fossil fuels, both coal and gas, while cheap, are really barbarous in that it is really amazing that in this day and age where we have access to all the world's knowledge literally in our pocket on a cell phone, you can go and get just everything. And yet at the same time, when we have this level of invention, we're still just burning stuff and consuming fuel and destroying it for future generations. And the majority of our power comes from destroying material and burning. So what I wanted to propose was that even though TVA has done a great job with the Integrated Resource Plan, technically we really don't have a renewable energy policy for TVA right now. We're having good conversations with staff about looking at these things, but TVA has again reshuffled the deck recently on the solar program. And so as a member of the Renewable Energy Resource Council, which helps advise you, and along with others, I would propose that TVA take the moment now, and over the course of the next year, actually develop a renewable energy policy for the agency. And by developing a renewable energy policy and doing it in a smart, collaborative, open, and transparent way, taking your time, there's no hurry, and try to come up with a decision, I think we can have a response to this real desire that many of the citizens of the Valley have to see more clean, renewable energy. So I would suggest that our organization stands ready to help in any way. You have the committee structure through the External Relations Committee where you actually have the ability to tackle something like this. And so again, friendly suggestion, I would propose that we think about that, and I would encourage you to contemplate that, and I think it would be helpful both for staff and for the overall agency to have a solid renewable policy. Thank you very much.
My name is Chris Ann Wangino. I'm here today representing Community Sustainability USA. It's wonderful to see you all again, and thank you once again for offering this opportunity for public comment. I'm here today to urge this board to adopt policies to maximize the deployment of renewable power and energy efficiency in the Valley in the next 5 years to address the urgent climate crisis and energy poverty. Utilities that have mandates for renewable adoption and energy efficiency savings, coupled with streamlined interconnection policies, spur innovation and achieve greater economic, jobs, and health benefits than those that don't. And in many cases, their customers have the lowest electric bills. TVA has a direction. TVA has no mandates for renewable or energy efficiency adoption and a complex set of interconnection policies. I've shared 5 maps of the United States with each of you. The first shows poverty rates. As you can see, all of TVA territory is pink, indicating the highest poverty rate, above 17%. With over 18% of people living in poverty, Tennessee ranks 45th among states for poverty rates. The second map shows the distribution of renewable portfolio standards, mandated and voluntary. 42 states and territories are green, indicating that they have renewable adoption standards. TVA territory, along with most of the Southeast, is gray, indicating no renewable standard or target. The third map shows the distribution of energy savings goals. The Southeast is white, indicating no energy savings goals. The fourth map shows state rankings for interconnection policies. Tennessee and most of the Southeast is black, indicating an F. The fifth map, and the final map, shows the average monthly residential electric bill. Tennessee and the rest of TVA territory is a pretty dark blue, indicating average bills of over $110 a month. Many states with lower poverty rates, mandates for renewables and/or energy efficiency, and better interconnection policies have significantly lower bills, including California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, Maine, Indiana, Utah, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and more. Home energy bills at 30% of household income in many low-income households in TVA territory is more than 3 times the average for non-low-income households. TVA and its board of directors play an outsized role in our collective responsibility for the health of the planet. The Southeast is lagging. This board has the opportunity to lead the Southeast transformation to a just, renewable energy economy. I urge you to take action. Thank you again for sharing your valuable time, expertise, knowledge to benefit all of the Valley.
Southern Environmental Law Center, and I recognize that I have 2 very hard acts to follow here. I was tremendously glad to hear from Huntsville Utilities, the Colonel, and the Chattanooga School Counselor. Their testimony shows exactly why TVA should not let extreme energy makeovers die in 2018 as is currently planned, but the board should adopt a policy that requires TVA to address low-income energy efficiency programs permanently. But I'm here this morning primarily to alert the board to TVA's current proposal to leave millions of cubic yards of coal ash, a pollutant that includes arsenic and heavy metals, in leaking, unlined pits next to our rivers and drinking water sources. TVA's proposal stands in stark contrast to the decisions of utilities in South and North Carolina, which have committed to safe coal ash removal to lined, permitted landfills away from our rivers. In 2008, TVA's mismanagement of its coal ash ponds caused the largest coal ash spill in the country's history. 5.4 million cubic yards of ash released from Kingston into the Emory and Clinch rivers. TVA has spent more than $1 billion cleaning up that spill. After the coal ash spill, this board required TVA to move to dry storage of its ash. And in response to the Kingston spill, federal EPA developed the coal ash rule, which is intended to protect groundwater from further contamination. TVA claims its proposal will help it meet these requirements, but its real purpose appears to be to fast-track closure of its ponds, no matter the impacts on public health and the environment. This is directly contrary to the purpose of the coal ash rule. I believe it is also contrary to this board's intent in requiring dry storage. TVA's proposal demonstrates that it's learned nothing from the coal ash spill at Kingston. Once again, TVA proposes to take the cheapest route, one that will guarantee ongoing contamination of the valley's ground and surface water for decades. In fact, in the proposal, TVA goes so far as to characterize the environmental damage at Kingston as trivial. To make matters worse, it relies on a faulty model that appears to materially understate the impact of keeping unmined ash dumps in groundwater on the banks of our rivers. I say appears to because citizens don't actually know much about the model TVA used in its analysis. Although TVA has a duty to disclose this information, it has refused to provide the model or its associated reports, instead insisting that citizens pay $25,000 to an industry-funded group to obtain them. TVA has outsourced its analysis in an attempt to evade public scrutiny of its controversial plan. Despite these efforts to hamper our review, Southern Environmental Law Center and its partners plan to submit detailed comments on TVA's proposal. I urge you, as directors who have a fiduciary duty to TVA and its ratepayers, to ensure that TVA does not cut corners in an attempt to achieve the quickest short-term fix, but rather meets the spirit and the letter of the law and truly accomplishes its mission. Low-cost electricity and economic development should not and need not come at the expense of protecting the resources of the valley. Thank you.